Intrusive people are everywhere, so it's important to know how to deal and work with them.
Let's obviously start with what is intrusive. What does an intrusive person look like, or?
Good point, because sometimes we have milder words for it, but intrusive is someone who's doing something that feels unwelcome, uninvited, uncomfortable, and annoying. And so those feelings, when we experience someone, it's like that's happening. There's a gut reaction in there, but you're wondering what's going on here, because nosy and pushy and meddlesome,
right.
But it's like, no, there's intrusive, and that's something that's even a little bit stronger, and you get a reaction when you're working with or you experience somebody like that.
Really? So, like, would you give us an example and
Sure.
what we're going to feel?
Yeah, I had a colleague who I worked in a kind of a large system, and the question comes, how much are you making?
Wow.
Look what happened. Look at your eyes and your mouth there, okay?
I was like, no.
And it's like, and I remember responding and saying, you know what? I don't share that information with anybody. I never have, and I'm not going to. That's uncomfortable to me. And the person said, instead of stopping, they said, well, other people have told me what they're making.
Oh.
Push, push, push. That's intrusive.
They don't know when to back off.
That's intrusive.
And sometimes when people ask you those intrusive questions, I'm sometimes caught so off guard that I answer, and then I'm like, why in the world did I answer? That is none of your business.
It is none of your business, and your brain tells you, but we are so North Dakota, Minnesota nice. We have been raised with manners. We are courteous, and it's just a natural response, conversation and dialogue. So when an intrusive person or an experience happens, it catches you off guard.
Right.
And then after the fact, you're upset with yourself for answering, but you did it anyway, because that's almost a natural reaction to that.
But how can you prepare yourself for every single question that might come your way from an intrusive person?
I agree. And so part of it is I've just started to when I ask that question about how much you guys make and that feeling that you experience, to start to pay attention to that, because it's really your body reacting to say, this is weird. You think it in your brain, you feel it in your body, but the courtesy part overrides and you think, well, I'm just gonna answer. No, you've rewarded them by answering the question they have just intrusively asked, instead of just saying, I'm not okay with that.
So does that make them think it's okay then to ask other things later on?
Absolutely.
Oh, I got a reaction, I can ask again.
Very much so. And then, we all have a neighbor who, will ask a favor of us. And that's great, because you know what? That's what neighbors do. And then they ask again, and then they ask you to watch their kids for the third and fourth time, and the 1 hour turns into 4 and 6. And you can't believe they keep asking, but unfortunately, you keep saying yes, which then invites them. They're not obviously have very good social skills, or so that's what we call it. When in reality, they know you're going to give in because you have done it time and time again. So it's our responsibility, because intrusive people are the car salesman, it's the person on the phone. Every day of our lives, we're going to experience it. So it's up to us how we're going to respond.
Just stick up for ourselves.
Stick up for ourselves.
Don't be taken advantage of.
Yeah, and you know what? We like to avoid confrontation, and we don't want to offend, and we don't want to be to them how they're being to us. So it's like figuring out how to respond calmly, how to still stand your ground, and not give them what they're looking for. They're being nosy, meddlesome, and intrusive.
So why is it that so many people allow themselves to be doormats?
I think we have a belief system that we somehow think that people wouldn't do that. They wouldn't behave that way to us. When in reality, if we really feel we're 50-50, that what is important for me in life is just as important to you, not more so, I don't need to be better, but it's 50-50, then when someone behaves in a way that feels inappropriate or unwelcome, we should be responding to that. Unfortunately, sometimes there's self-esteem problems. That there's like, well, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting. It's always doubt on ourselves instead of, I don't have to be right, but I have 50% here, and I deserve to be treated respectfully, and if that's uncomfortable to me, I don't have to answer. It's just the most, it's whether it's in the grocery store or I just think about every day, it's almost like you have to be a little bit on guard instead of thinking that people wouldn't do that.
Okay, here we go. So if you're trying to get away from a pushy person, we'll have you go first, Kimberly. Don't be afraid.
Okay, I'm not.
Should you try to get away by making excuses based on your feelings? Like, I just don't feel like doing that. Or logic. Like, you know what, I'm busy, my schedule doesn't meet that.
Logic. You should use logic.
Wrong.
Oh. Really?
Sorry to be pushy. No, you could do logic. Logic's great, but if they keep coming back, they can always fight your logic. Or they can always fight. So if you give them a problem that is logical, they're going to try to fix your logical problem. Like, I don't have a babysitter. And they're like, well, my kids can babysit.
Oh.
Well, I don't like your kids. So watch this. The best way to get away from a pushy person is share your feelings. It's hard to argue your feelings. You know what? I just don't feel like going out tonight. I feel like I need to be home with my kid. So it's harder to fight your feelings than your logic.
But I will say, then the pushiness starts to feel personal. Like, I don't feel like going out tonight, and they turn into, well, come on. And then it starts to be about you as opposed to the facts.
Well, if there are facts.
Okay.
But deep down, you may not really want to go out with a pushy person because you don't feel like it. I don't feel like being with you. If you're starting to argue logic is easier to argue constantly than my feelings. Eventually, with my feelings, you're just going to have to get used to them.
Okay.
I just don't feel like it. I mean, that's kind of hard, but I just don't feel like this is something I want to do this weekend.
Okay.
Anyway, you can try the logic. It's just, the minute, think of that. If you give somebody a logical answer, I'm probably going to start trying to break that down.
Yeah, you can overcome that.
Okay, Darren, you ready for one?
Yes.
Should you worry about hurting their feelings?
No, they're pushy people and they don't have feelings. I think they're like have a harder shell, and so you can't tiptoe around them.
But we worry about it. See, I think the reason we get stuck with pushy people is because you don't push hard enough. They push hard. That's how come we call them pushy. Pushy people push hard. So as non-pushy people, I call us squishy people. As squishy people, we don't push hard enough because we're so worried about their feelings. I might not worry about their feelings too much, and I start pushing until you do get some pushback.
Okay.
How hard can you push a pushy person? That sounds like a riddle.
How much wood?
How much wood could a push?
Yeah.
If a wood push could push wood. I'd push harder.
Okay.
I wouldn't be afraid of hurting their feelings.
So it's stepping outside of our comfort zone as squishy people and really challenging.
Now, that sounds crazy, but how do you know how much they can take if you've never pushed it?
Yeah.
See, pushy people know how much you can take because they keep pushing. So until you've pushed on the boundary, you may not know where the boundaries are.
that.
So, so by the way, remember, they don't think like you do. So be more aggressive with a pushy person.
Okay,
you ready?
okay.
Good. Ooh, that was good
Yeah,
job,
did I
Dan.
get that one?
You totally nailed it.
Sweet, okay.
Okay. Should I try to communicate back to them? Like, should I try to use verbals or nonverbals? Should I make a call to tell them these things, or should I use a nonverbal like a text message?
Verbals, you should be direct.
Okay, interesting. That would be ideal, especially,
failing this
you
quiz?
nailed that.
Oh, good.
Good.
You did. So what we should do is I personally would use what they used with me.
Okay.
So if they called me and asked me to do this, whatever, then I would probably call them back and be a little stronger.
Okay.
If they texted, when a lot of us that are squishy, by the way, we're the ones that tend to get used and pushed.
Yes.
We would probably opt for a softer method, like just texting back. And then by the way, they may not really be getting the message as clear as we need to do it. One of my favorite rules about communication is it's never what you say that matters, it's how it's received. And a lot of times if you're sending just a text message, you don't know how it's being received. So if I push on a pushy person long enough, I can see their feathers start to get riled a little bit, which now all of a sudden becomes a very real moment. Then we can talk about that. Does that make sense?
Kind of breaks down the walls that
you've built up, that are being built up.
Yes.
So I'd say ideally push using their language.
Okay.
But if you can, I'd use verbal.
Okay.
Which again, squishy people we don't like. Okay, you ready for this one? So when discussing my opinion, should I be direct about my feelings or less direct, maybe beating around the bush?
So this is, okay, I'm a squishy person, and if I'm dealing with a squishy person, I would beat around the bush and hope they would pick up on the cues.
Squish, squish.
But these are not squishy, so they're pushy, so I think I'm going to have to be direct and not beat around the bush.
That's right. You go straight at it. I like to think of it right between their eyes.
Ouch.
It sounds very aggressive.
Yeah.
But you don't want to scatter this message. With a pushy person, you need a very concise, direct message.
to the point.
To the point, and the best message might be no. No.
Well, you know what I'm thinking here as you're sitting and
What?
talking about it? Pushy people aren't just, it's not just a form of communication, it's kind of a form of rudeness. I mean, these people are kind of beyond the boundaries of just strong communication.
Now, rudeness, though, would imply that they intend to. I even would go further and say these people just don't have a clue.
Yeah.
So they're not even trying to be rude. This is just what they've learned.
Yeah.
They've learned to just be more direct. It's not about feelings. I'm asking you if you want to go shopping. Hello? It's not even trying to be rude. It's just me being me. So some of them are so clueless in that they don't know that there's this boundary that they're stepping on all the time.
Yeah.
And so how do we teach people about boundaries if we don't ever show them that there's boundaries? So if we're too squishy to say no, we're stuck. If we're too squishy to be direct, if we beat around the bush, we're part of their problem.
We're helping them build those social skills by letting them know, here's the wall, you shouldn't be going
You could go look and see who's really successful with the squishy person. It's usually a pushy person. It's usually another pushy person. Somebody that's very direct. Okay? So you guys are good. Here's another one. With pushy people, this is so fun. Should I be honest or nice?
Oh, Brooke has this one.
Should you be what?
Honest or nice?
You should be both. You can be honest and be nice.
Give me some sugar there.
Right?
You can be
Is that
honest
right?
and nice.
Yes.
By the way, isn't being honest nice?
Yes. Well,
Nice to be honest.
yes. I don't know. There's ways to be honest that is not nice.
See, so we can still show respect, we can still be decent, but if you keep encroaching and encroaching, somebody needs to give feedback. Okay, an example, the close talker. You ever had the one that's always in your space? It might be nice that eventually once you're close enough with them, you say, you're a close talker. Did you know that humans have boundaries? And you cross the boundary. Duh. And then you can be stronger with them. So being sometimes honest with them is the nice.
Yeah.
Aaron! Scary! Okay, you guys are good, so you can do both. By the way, humans dichotomize. Either I'm good or I'm bad to this person. You're not. Either I'm strong or I'm weak. It's not always that way. You can be strong and nice.
I like that.
Makes sense?
I like that.
Thank you. It's just something I did.
Can I quote someone?
Please.
I can't even know. I don't even know who this is. My friend says you should act like a lady. You should think like a boss. Right?
Wow.
Honest and nice.
But I don't like acting like a lady.
Okay, well.
But it's great advice.
gentleman.
I'm not sure where we're going with that.
You
but
don't.
I get it.
One more question?
Should I avoid them? These people bug me. They irritate. They're clueless. They don't get it. Should I just avoid them?
You know, I'm telling
That's
you
where I
honestly.
go.
Yes. Yes, you should avoid them.
Yeah, I'd agree
That would
with
make
that.
life so much easier. Just avoid them.
Yeah.
Okay, you're wrong.
Oh, but I'm honest.
You know why? Because
And you're nice.
and you're nice and squishy. Then you're becoming dysfunctional. So we don't become dysfunctional just because they are.